Hello everyone, welcome to this part of the lecture. We were discussing about the biodiversity convention, and particularly our focus was on the goals of the convention. So the third goal was sharing the benefit arising from the commercial and other utilization of genetic resources in a fair and equitable way. So what is to be shared and how it is to be shared, and sharing of what. So there are several issues. First is sharing the benefit, and I think we all understand what benefit is. Benefit is something which actually allows certain advantages or provides certain utility or some kind of financial and other uh, benefits. And that has to be arising from the commercial or other utilization of genetic resources. Now, utilization commercial is, I think you all understand, but other utilization may be like the finding of a particular research which has brought certain benefits, and of course, the research is about this biodiversity. The research is related to certain species or something like that. And when we say sharing the benefit can be of both monetary and non-monetary. So non-monetary benefit includes, as I said, the outcome of a research, the publications of some very useful research. And although globally we see there are some publications which are not available to all, and when the big pharmaceutical companies or other industries and companies doing research, particularly even research institutes, scientific laboratories, when they are using these biological resources, when they are actually find some scientific prosperity and outcomes, the result of such experiments and investigation should be shared with others. And that is what it says, sharing the benefit. So benefit, financial, or monetary and non-monetary, both are included. This is one point you please keep in mind. Again, as commercial and other utilization, other utilization is a very generic terms, and I think the idea of the drafters is to keep the option open and to encompass anything and everything which goes in line with the other terminologies of this particular point. And the benefit sharing must be in a fair and equitable way. Now, what is fair and equitable is to be understood from the lens of the interpretations of international law. And fair and equitable is a very relaxed terms, in the sense that many of us, particularly in the legal scholarships, do not give much attention to it. However, this is one of the very important issue. Um, it doesn't always be a specific percentage of sharing the benefit. It must be different ways. Fair and equitable ways gives the flexibility of the parties in the outcome. So sometimes sending an expert in one country from another is can also be a part of the fair and equitable way of benefit sharing. Suppose, for example, Japan has certainly as a scientifically advanced nation. So assuming that Japan has developed certain what you call experiments and results from the whale as it hunts whale in the ocean. And if Japan sent one of its expert who will disseminate his idea and the outcome with the Bangladeshi scientists in Bangladesh, that as Bay of Bengal is adjacent to us, and we can get benefit out of that. That kind of dissemination of result is also, or can also be considered as sharing the benefit. And fair and equitable way is a very situation to situation. uh, the result will vary. I mean, it's not there is standard strict percentage wise or some other ways. Some uh, financial and non-financial benefits are settled. It's not like that. It's like looking at the parties contributions deserving or entitlements, and then determining what can be the possible fair and equitable mechanisms, or filtering, what I think. So these are the three goals of the Biodiversity Convention. Moving ahead, I think before we actually looking into the content, there are several terminologies which require explanations. For example, when we say biological diversity, it means the variability among living organisms from all sources, including it first includes living organisms. It first says living organisms, and then it can be from all sources. All sources means terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic systems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. So this is interesting. Not only those living resource organisms, but also in the complexes of the ecology they living. For example, maybe a coral. Uh, Coral, it maybe habitates certain species, fishes. So in that sense, coral is also part of the biological diversity, as it says that the ecological complexes of which these biological components are. Then this includes diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystems. This is how biological diversity is to be understood. Another important terminology is biological resources. So resources includes genetic resources, organisms or part thereof, populations, or any other biotic component of ecosystem with actual or potential use or value for humanity. Now that value must not be only filtered from the monetary value sense. It includes any sort of values which, I mean, it can be understood as any resources which is necessary for the human survival and for their own survival. So this is what the ecosystem must be looked into, whether that ecosystem has biotic components which are potential use or value for humanity. Value for humanity includes prospective advancement of medicines from certain biological components, and if those components are taken, these are biological resources. Any resources you see, including genetic resources, the final term, which I think requires our interpretation, is not the final. There are many more. Ecosystem. Ecosystem means a dynamic complex of plant, animal, and microorganisms, communities, and their non-living environment interacting as a functional unit. So in a very simple way, ecosystem is the broadest terms to include and encompass anything into from plant, animal, or other microorganisms which we may not see through our ordinary eyes without any lens and camera, and then microscopic scientific equipments can be used to see some of those organisms, but all are part of the ecosystem. And also the non-living environment is part of the ecosystem which interacting as a functional unit. So all biological resources have certainly been nexused with this with their functional unit, with the non-living environment, because The living and non-living both constitutes the balance in the biological resources diversity. You will be kept hearing to XC to conservation. Conservation means protection properly, ensuring that the sustainability is maintained. Ex-situ conservation is conservation of components of biological diversity outside their natural habitats. So maybe their natural habitat is river, but they are brought in some farming uh, projected small ponds, and somewhere these resources are used in those ponds, which certainly is not the natural habitat of those resources. So then it is called ex situ conservation. Now another term is in situ conservation. It means the conservation of ecosystems and natural habitats, and the maintenance and recovery of viable populations of species in their natural surroundings. And in the case of domesticated or cultivated species, in the surroundings where they have developed their distinctive properties. So it includes the natural habitats as well as many more extended arguments provided here. But please understand that you are not required to memorize these things, rather to understand. So ex situ is beyond the or outside the natural say habitats. In situ is within the natural habitats. The conservation is being conducted. Then it is stating that the sustainable use of biological resources. Now, sustainable use means the use of components of biological diversity in a way and at a rate that does not lead to the long-term decline of biodiversity. As I said in examples, that using biological resources in such a way that it is not going to be extincted. This is number one. Number two, the way we are getting access to these resources, we must make sure that this has to be maintained for our future generations. And thinking about the future generations will only help in achieving the goals and purposes. Otherwise we doubt of finding anything, and that is where the problem is. uh, the problem is that every generation think and gives priority to their own, which they should not under the international environmental law. So and that's how sustainable development or sustainable use is meant. So in the next part, we will be discussing about the substantive provisions of biodiversity. Some of those, particularly from the crux of the contents from Article 6 to Article 20. And we would like to see what are the key issues involved in these articles. Thank you very much for listening to this.